Hey everyone, excited to give you an update on our grant process. Most things in life, a lot of the work is done in getting things ready. It's never like just the race itself, it's all the practice, it's all the other things that happen that lead up to the race. Our newest update is what it took to really get the proposal ready to submit our first grant. Working with Justin, Policy Titan, that whole process, we wanted to kind of give you some color and some information on what that looked like.
Hi everyone, Justin Williams here. When I was making the proposal, I thought about a couple of things. One, I thought about mission alignment. We have to make sure that wherever we apply is aligned with what you're trying to achieve. As nonprofits know, and whether you're in the game for a short time or not, a lot of times getting the grant comes down to you have synergies. There's like-mindedness amongst you. A lot of times you are wasting your time if you shot that is not necessarily in your ballpark. I've done that before, but I would also say for you all specifically, what's interesting is that you all are not only a tech company, but you all are also a fiscal sponsorship company. So there's two dynamics there, and they both play differently to grantors.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. A lot of organizations are not just one set and done. And I think some of the ones that are, those are great. Maybe the search process is a lot easier. But for organizations that are a little bit more complex, what is your process as far as like trying to figure out which lanes or which channels to pursue based on complexities?
I really try to do some research on past grant winners for that grant. So I try to see if there's any kind of comparison I can make between a company or a nonprofit that has won a specific grant before and your specific company. I do that due diligence. I think any good grant company should. And for you, what I found was yes and no. It's great to be unique. It's great to have a way of capitalizing on a market where you're helping people in a way that is different than what's been done before. A lot of grantors like that, particularly government grants like that. I would say that for foundations, they're kind of looking for that kind of plain Jane experienced. There's no risk here, risk mitigation. So when I was writing your most recent application, I had to really go into a lot of data, a lot of metrics that were similar to metrics I found in other grants, but also metrics that make you look like you're very stable and scalable.
Taking a step back, you've mentioned the quote unquote menu process where you really narrow down to a handful of grants that are viable for a particular organization, including ours. Can you talk about what that process is like? Is it like there's so many grants in the marketplace, or is it really like trying to find five is like difficult work? What does that process look like? What are the difficulties and what are some tips that you can share?
Another thing that you want to look at is how much are they offering and when are they going to most likely close. So it's hard to tell when the grant is necessarily going to give you the money. You usually don't find that out until you've got your LOI in, your letter of intent. And a lot of spaces using LOIs to kind of cut down the chaff of how many people are applying. There's a two-step application process now. That only delays when you get the money. So you might not get your money until quarter three, quarter four. You've applied in quarter two, quarter one. That's a long space. So this is a long game. So what you want to explain in your menu is not only that for the client, then the metric of winnability, but then the last thing you want to think about is what is going to take to really convince them once you get through the process of getting that LOI. You want to prepare them confidently that it's a process and it's going to be intensive and you're working together. A lot of times nonprofits, when they're working with a grant writer or a person in my profession, even yours, a fiscal sponsor, they kind of just want to dump the load and they don't really want to continue as partnership. But grantors can sniff that out. It's very obvious when the grant writer is not prepared and doesn't know what they're writing about. So you want to put in the language of the menu that you clearly have an understanding of the grantee as well.
That's great. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about what the work was leading up to the proposal. And obviously we've been working very closely together. I can share on my side is really just getting a lot of the due diligence and making sure you fully understand our mission, our business, and anything from our financials to staff, our vision. Like we worked on things, financials for the next 3 years and projection. So there was a lot of work that happened there. And I think to the viewers of this call, it's work. We have to invest time and energy into this. And you're going into the market and raising funds for your mission. People aren't just writing checks and just dumping money. Like it's not easy. There's a reason why we're working with Policy Titan Justin, but also it doesn't eliminate the work and investment on our side. We've obviously been working on planning documents, financial estimates, getting you pitch decks and proposals. I just wanted to explain that to the viewers here. If you have a lot of those things ready, amazing. You're already a step ahead. But even from there, Justin, if you can talk about, we have some general stuff, but we're still kind of tailoring things based on what we're applying for, Or can you kind of describe that a little bit more, how you kind of manage that?
Sure. So for our services, we do provide the capability of doing a wraparound assessment of what you need to be grant ready. That's also not just your Form 990s, your IRS tax document that shows that you've been incorporated. That could be a capitalization table. You got to look at your projections. You got to look at everything with your budget, who's on your board. A nice capitalization table is starting to be asked for, especially for LLCs and S Corps or C Corps. Even if you're in that, or if you're in the nonprofit space, you still want to have a good summation on your financials. After that, preparing is not easy. I like it as like I'm watching either a good or bad movie. I'm sitting in the audience, I bought my ticket, I'm going to help you with your grant stuff. But if I notice that in the beginning of the movie, there is just no plot or no character, right? So basically, you don't have your documents in a row, then we have to take time to set that up. I have a client that I'm working with now where she didn't have a website. She didn't have any socials. I said, let's wait a month and a half, get that to a point where it's at least up and running, and then we can apply. Because people want to know you. Are going to Google you. They're going to research you. If you think you're not going to be Googled or found on LinkedIn or any kind of background check before they make their decision, you were very erroneous.
We, NAS, majority of our clients under fiscal sponsorship. Fiscal sponsorship being a very common way for nonprofits with 501c3 status to extend its umbrella over to a third-party project or program or partner. Again, this is not new. It has been in the industry for a long time, but there are kind of nuances to it. It's specifically for grants, and this is something we share with all of our clients as well. Sometimes there are barriers and restrictions when it comes to grants and fiscally sponsored organizations and projects, right? Justin, can you kind of share some insights from your side, and if we can talk through some of those?
Sure. So I have gotten companies that were not nonprofits fiscal sponsorship before, and I've worked with some of the biggest in the game pretty much. And what I found is that a lot of them are focused in different areas. So it's very likely that you can get a grant if you have a fiscal sponsor that is experienced. That's what they do. They are the fiscal sponsor of other companies. The problem is that you'll share an EIN number with other potential grantees, so that might be a flag. A lot of foundations and a lot of grants are available for you to get a fiscal sponsorship because if it's a trusted source, and they'll put that in a caveat, they'll say this fiscal sponsor has to be 10 years old, or this fiscal sponsor has to have a history of working on this type of grant and can't be given to an individual. That's one thing they're really, really watching for, is that you have just found a nonprofit that maybe is around for 6 months and doesn't have anything over 5K, and you're asking for a gift of $1 million, and they say that, oh, it's for a performance or a tour for an individual or to publish a book, and you try to finagle and sneak that in. That's not going to even make the first round. You'll find out very quickly that you have not gotten that grant, especially if it's rolling. And I think with fiscal sponsors, it's a great way to go. It's a great tool in your toolbox because it gives you the option to be a for-profit company, but you can also do good. You can do a lot of good without having to go to the nuts and bolts of the hard work, which is what I do, right? The hard work is the incorporation documents. It's getting you incorporated. It's the bylaws. I mean, it's maddening. I would always say that for your cause, there's going to be a grant for you out there somewhere. There's just so many grants and there's so many great legitimate fiscal sponsors like Do Good and Us that you will find something. Now, can you find 10 options? Can you find 20 options? That's up to your grant lead, someone like me, to find that for you. We can always find a way to get you 10 applications, but 10 perfect fits is something that you really need to work hard with your nonprofit to really see if that's feasible, because that's your time, and time is money, and that's also your efforts. One of the things I think is very important for nonprofits to understand is there's a lot of effort that goes into this. Sometimes the effort is not rewarded by a grant, but every opportunity is a learning opportunity to get better and to understand the market that people are looking for that year, because it changes every year.
Great. Let me offer some kind of wrap up thought. Getting grant ready, doing the due diligence, understanding the requirements, the qualifications, managing risk, as well as ROI potential. Everything has an opportunity cost. Just because you apply does not mean that you're going to get it. You know, again, you're trying to win a lottery in some degree. Why it's important to work with organizations that have the experience is because it's like a plumber. You're paying the plumber to know where to fix, not to just figure everything out. So Justin, grateful for this, just your insight, your experience, and obviously your expertise. And we're excited. We have some great grants that we're working on, and we'll give some more updates on applications and everything else next.